sir. You're about to see something really special.
Really thought this part of my life was behind me. Frenzy disappeared with the drinking 3 years ago. Why now? This makes no sense, and I'm right on the verge of freaking out.
Back from your life.
These people can be animals.
What you burn.
Thingy's out.
Some bitter things you should never.
Good cheese.
Learn. Wallow through the days.
Remember, cosplay's not consent.
So here's to me. Congratulations, me. Yay, me.
This would all be so much easier if I was hammered. Hammered.
Won't be there
Right.
You can take away the anger, but you leave behind the pain. It's your soul I will.
New ventures are always scary.
Till I'm melting
Blah, blah, blah. Something positive and uplifting.
tomorrow, but the hurt will still remain. In your soul I'll live forever. Till I'm melting in.
Don't miss our new film, The Love Song of William H. Shaw, coming soon to a streaming service near you. Hey everyone, this is Clif from Talking Pondo. Just wanted to give you a quick heads up about spoilers on the show. We do talk about the films in a certain amount of detail, so you may want to watch the film first and then come back if you're not a fan of spoilers. Also, every now and then there's a little bit of adult language, so we wanted to give you fair warning on that. We hope you enjoy the episode, and we really appreciate you listening.
Welcome to Making Pondo and Talking Pondo. Talking Pondo is a podcast where we pick out 2 movies each week and talk about them in detail. Making Pondo is a podcast where we talk to people we've made films with and we discuss all their experiences on set.
All right, Marty, we're back.
Episode 24 of
That's right.
Making Pondo, Talking Pondo. This is Talking Pondo this week. I am Marty Catola.
I am Cliff Campbell with episode 24, guys. You like that? How we're not spending probably a minute or two trying to figure out what episode number it is? We've arrived on a correct number. We know what it is.
That was in the classic days when we didn't know what the numbering system was. But, it's 2 shows in one. Do you number them separately? Do you number them all together? And we realized you number them all together.
Yeah,
Makes more
all
sense.
together. Makes more sense. It's not
We
as
have our
confusing.
arbitrary seasons, but still it makes sense. Stick with us, you'll understand the format more.
Yeah. And eventually we'll stop talking about it.
Yeah, but until then, it's a it's one of those opening monologues.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing bad material on purpose, just to win them back.
So,
episode 24. What did we watch this time?
let's see. Last week it was
Last week we watched Near Dark.
Near Dark. Yeah, and The Late Game. So then
movies.
Yeah, we do watch movies. And The Late Game was good, and Near Dark was very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Early Catherine Bigelow. Yeah, it was an interesting movie. So then that brought up what? I gave you
Sicario,
and you gave me Dudes.
Yes. 2 movies you wouldn't think have anything in common, but no, they're both totally set in Arizona.
Yeah, they're Southwest movies.
Mm-hmm.
Which one you want to talk about first?
Well, let me look up something here. I think it's probably best to do Dudes first.
All right.
Look here, almost done. Nothing better than a podcast than typing something while the audience waits.
So Dudes, 1987, starring John Cryer, Daniel Roebuck, and Flea.
Oh, yes.
Along with a little Lee Ving from Fear in it. As the main bad guy, directed by Penelope Spheris, who did, who's done some really great stuff. Suburbia, Decline of Western Civilization. I think she also did, Wayne's World, and of course, goodness, what's the other one I'm thinking of that I can't put my hand on?
Oh yeah, but this is when she's still in her early indie stage.
Yep, this is very early in her career. Yep. think I read a quote from her as I was doing some research on this movie, and there's a quote, I guess, from a commentary track on, I think it might be Dudes or Suburbia, where she says, "I was a pretty good director until I sold out."
Well, she finally got an opportunity to make some money,
Yeah.
But this one feels more like that road trip.
Yeah, it's definitely a road movie.
And I guess Sicario is as well. I'll get more into that, soon. Now I'm going to send you a picture through the phone here. Now this is because last time we did this movie called Near Dark, and it has the same second and third AD as this movie as Dudes has.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of bizarre, right? Let's see here. So, as you'll see here in this picture, this is Chuck. You remember running into him at the Gaslight Theater, and
Chuck
here he
Williams.
is on set with the two guys, two leads of the movie, and then also the second assistant director, as well as the the stunt coordinator of the film here. He posted this a couple weeks ago, and I was like, oh, I'm going to save this and show it to Clif during the thing, because it's just kind of a trip to see.
We'll have to include that in the show notes. That's interesting.
Yeah. But then, remember last time I was like, well, what does a third assistant director do? Well, I looked it up, and funny that we get to talk about what was probably the movie that the two of them did right after Near Dark, come to think of it, 87, 88.
Mm-hmm.
Shot up in Jerome, Arizona, primarily.
Uh-huh.
So that's up towards the middle of the state. The third assistant director supports the first and second ADs in the department. They have a key communications role during shooting. They are responsible for the movement of actors as per filming scheduled, organizing of extras, and supervising and directing production assistants. So basically helping tell people where to go and more administrative stuff like that. That's kind of what I guessed.
Mm-hmm.
You're basically the backup to the other guys. And so, like when we were talking about Writing Frenzy, where it was just the team, and we all just kind of, the three of us just plowed through the fucking thing. And so I can imagine a team of director, second AD, and then, you'd have your first AD, a second AD, and a third AD, make a nice powerhouse. I don't know if all movies have that many.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean,
it's
I guess
not a credit that I notice anyway.
Yeah, I guess, and maybe it's the kind of credit that takes on multiple forms. I don't know. Maybe third ADs,
call it something different,
something
now.
else. Second camera assistant or something weird like that.
Because this was back in the 80s, it's very possible that position has been renamed.
Yep. Or maybe done away with. Maybe it's not. Maybe they don't use it. Maybe it's only on big productions. I don't know.
So not purposely trying to do movies that people we know are in or name drop or all that, but
Well, that is interesting. Chuck's in it, or Chuck worked on it. Yeah, that's very interesting. So
here I always thought he was one of the fake Elvises in the background. No, that's another movie.
So it's also got Catherine Mary Stewart, who's we love her.
We're all the way back to Night of the Comet.
All the way back to Night of the Comet, yep. But so Dudes is about three punk-loving New York City dudes that need a change and drive a VW Beetle to California. And rednecks kill one of them in Arizona, and they want justice, and so they go after him, and a cute girl helps them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the plot of the movie.
And Plex calls it in their description lighthearted. With all that murder.
I guess it definitely tries to play as a comedy, but it deals with a lot of serious themes. And my goodness, some of the I had forgotten about this movie. I hadn't seen this movie in 10 years, maybe. And I had completely forgotten how wacko that freaking movie is. It's completely wacko.
Yeah, and I'll mention that I was hearing another podcast where they interviewed a prominent director, and they're talking about road movies, and that you can shoot a road movie in any order, so you can change things on a whim, to paraphrase what they were saying, talking about. It's interesting having heard that after just revisiting Dudes, because it does kind of feel like okay, we're in a punk club. Okay, we're gonna start here, and then there's a reason to go out on the road, and what are we gonna do now? Well, we'll go this way or that, and
Right.
like it has all those strange twists and turns that maybe start as far back as movies like Easy Rider, where it's just like, let's go and we'll just make a movie and we'll make it up as we go along. Here I go again saying they're making it up as they go along, and that can't be completely the case. But
So you feel like the movie feels like it was made up as it went along,
I feel like
or it gives you that feeling.
When they meet Daredevil's for the first time.
Fucking Daredevil's. First off, my favorite part of that fucking movie is Daredevil's. I'm mad that I didn't think of it. That's how much I fucking love Daredevil's. Not in the beginning where you're just like, okay, that's weird. But then as you're watching the movie, you're like, you know what? That Daredevil's thing's going to pay off. And it does in the most spectacular fucking way.
Mm-hmm.
Daredevil's is the best part of this movie.
Right. That's hard to disagree with. Yeah.
It just is. It's the best part of the movie. And I would just say if you're on the fence about watching Dudes, watch it for Daredevil's.
Oh yeah.
But anyways, go ahead. I derailed you. You mentioned Daredevil's and I was like, yep, best part of the movie.
You can find it on multiple streaming platforms, a nice high def copy. It's pretty easy to find Dudes nowadays. It was not easy to find this movie for years. I think Penelope Spheris owns the rights to it, and so until she found another distributor, which I think was Shout.
Well, it's everywhere. It's on. I mean, it's on Freevee, Peacock. It's on Pluto TV, the Roku channel, Tubi, so you can catch it anywhere. But anyways, like you were saying.
You know that, of course, you know that scene where they first meet Daredevil's. That's what we just.
I love that scene. Yeah.
So, this movie has a lot of interesting ADR sprinkled throughout. I don't think Flea was there when they shot that scene with Daredevil's and they pull over because I was asleep in the back seat and I had a dream. But you weren't on set. How many days did they have Flea on set? Probably not too many. His screen time is limited to maybe 5 to 7 minutes.
I wanted to ask you. He was in a bit more of that. He's in a good portion of the movie early on.
I think they make it seem like he's there more than he's really.
Because he's in the opening concert scene. He's in the restaurant scene where they get into the fight, and then he's in the drinking scene.
Yeah, that's true.
And then later he's on the road with them, and then he's at the camp later on.
It just seemed like he was. This time to me, it seemed like he was there, and then he was gone. And I thought, is this character truly necessary to the plot of the movie? Could something else been the impetus to right? But did you even need that in order to have the run-in with the bad people, the gang? But Lee Ving, once again, here we are watching. Lee Ving hasn't made a whole lot of movies, but we have covered a second one now. Yep. We saw him last in Get Crazy. Lee Ving is the leader of the redneck biker gang, that kills Milo, who's played by Flea. Yeah. And the interesting thing about Flea in this movie is he looks like Harpo Marx.
He does.
And it adds this whole other level.
Oh, that's hilarious. He totally does.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, this is a twisted Marx Brothers movie from 1988.
Yeah. And this is Flea before his acting instrument, I think, was fully in tune.
Yeah.
And
you got John Cryer with his proto-grunge Sid Vicious look, right? He's got the flannel tied around, but he's got the fucking hair and the chain locked around his neck. So
he's not very
interesting, that beginning of that crossover scene there.
Yeah, he's not a very believable punk.
No, he's way too clean.
He's way too clean. The guy who plays...
But yet the costume values are very good in this movie. You could tell somebody was doing it up right. It might not have looked realistic, but you could tell somebody was having a field day with these costumes. So.
Well, at one point, they've got 2 tin cups, one on each shoulder of Flea's jacket, strapped to it. And I'm just, the fuck is that?
1988.
But the dude who played Daniel Roebuck, who played his friend,
Yes.
So for me, like here's what
His character's called Biscuit. How funny is that?
Biscuit. Yeah, Biscuit. That's weird too. I just realized that. We literally worked with a girl who calls herself Biscuit. So my thing with him was, my first thought when I started watching this movie was, they miscast this. And what they should have done was they should have made Daniel Roebuck the head of the frickin' biker gang. Because he's big, he's intimidating looking, and Lee's kind of a smaller dude, and he's punk rock, and he has that aesthetic. And you have him and kind of like the older dude that's going out with him out west, and he gets, and then Milo gets killed or he gets killed or whatever, and that's the But then I thought, well, maybe Lee, wanted to play the bad guy, and that was the role he, I don't know what the story there was, but people love to play bad guys, so I'm sure he was fine with it.
Isn't there that shot that's very much like a shot from Near Dark, where like they're coming out of the haze in the dark, and you almost get this feeling of like, well, this is like how we did it on the last shoot, and let's do a shot like this here, because I could totally see.
There's some really cinematic stuff going on. Like she does that cool hero walk in slow mo.
Oh yeah.
Years before Tarantino does it in Reservoir Dogs, and when they come out of that into that shot, and he's in the full Indian garb, and we got to talk about that later too, but he's in the full Native American garb, and he's dressed like a gambling gunslinger. It's a very cool looking moment and aesthetic, but
right. And she also, Penelope Spheris, likes to do the close-up and hold on people's face thing, and it reminds me of the Everything Everywhere All at once again. And it's also something that I heard pointed out on a film podcast, where it's basically a technique, right? Like so many things in cinema, you get this long shot of somebody's face doing a single reaction, and you hold on it for a while, and you cut to something else, and you cut back to the face, and then people afterwards will tell you, oh, I felt they were reacting to whatever it was, and then they're projecting so much onto the face. That's probably why Everything Everywhere All at Once works. I think for people like me who are probably a little more on the spectrum side, I'm left going, yep, that's a person's face, because I'm not connecting in the same way, but I understand why the technique can work of it makes you think this unrelated footage actually is, because there's so much emotion in the face.
Our next movie does that quite a bit too.
Yeah, it's true, right?
Our next Sicario does that quite. Villanueva does that quite a bit. I mean, he likes to let the actors act and get right in there with the camera.
Right, playing on my face.
Anyway,
and John Densmore's in this. He was in Get Crazy also.
You. Yeah, he's in. Yeah, this is insane. Densmore's like, I remember they cut to him, and he's like, "You want to snort?" And he holds his cup out, and I was like, "Is that freaking John Densmore? Really? Oh my god! Okay."
It's like,
how do you sneak into this?
Come around again? Not by design. Did they have the same agent, perhaps?
I have no idea.
It's funny. Once again, it would be like, well, you would cover the decline of Western civilization first. No, we're going into Dudes, one of the more obscure Penelope Spheris films.
One of the weird thoughts I had, and it reminded me, the shot kind of reminded me of, okay, the shot. It's that if you're a teenage boy back then, you will. But in the first Transformers, there's that shot of Megan, what's her name? Fox, and she's got the hood of the car up and her ass is out. She's all bent over it. So they do that in this movie also, but Penelope, it's just, really feel like it may be the difference between a man and a woman shooting the movie. She does the same thing, has her bent over the car with her butt out, but she shoots it from farther away. So it's not so like sexualizing.
Right. It's more in the tone with the overall movie.
Yeah. And I guess,
well, it's well shot.
I guess the other one was kind of in the tone with the movie too, but it was, I don't know. I just felt like it may be the difference between.
Yeah, because the difference between Michael Bay and Penelope Spheris is probably a pretty big margin there.
Yeah, you're right. Anyway, I just had that thought when I was watching it.
Right.
That's interesting because maybe a male director would have been like, all right, yeah, let's shoot that for until we get it right, close-ups or whatever. But
That's why they rely more on the face here or the hero shot. Yeah.
Overall, I felt like her part was really kind of just, she was really just there to move the story
Doesn't have
along.
much to do.
She doesn't have much to do. It was kind of a bummer, you know, 'cause she's been in some great roles. She's had some great roles, and she can carry a movie no problem. And it was just kind of like, wow, they really underutilized her, in my opinion. You know, she's there to meet the dude, to create a romantic relationship, and then later to save him with the truck because I have the only tow truck in the county. You know, it's very, I don't know.
Yeah. But it fits with the kind of jagged all over. And it's interesting because it feels like a movie that has the tonality, the story of something that could have come out of the early 80s, but it's presented in that uniquely late 80s
style. Yeah.
So it falls right into that.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean by that. Yeah. It's definitely got that late 80s feel.
Yeah. June of 88, this was released. So this came out, like a month before or two before I met you, something like that.
IMDb's got this as 87.
Well, that's the production date, but I think then it finally got its wide release. It took all the way until... that's why it's like 87, 88, I guess, depending on where you were in the country.
I saw it in the theater. I can't remember when, and then I watched it quite a bit on...
I saw the trailer in the theater, but I didn't get a chance to go back and see it until probably VHS. And then I think... See, I can appreciate it more now because I know the whole movie, but back in the day, I'd be like, this isn't going to be a movie about the first 20 minutes. Now they're suddenly on the road. It's a Western and Flea got shot. And what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Now I know that's the disposable setup.
Right.
Back when I was 14, I thought, why isn't the movie
more about punk rock in New York City?
You already made those movies. This is what happens when East goes West.
Yeah. So I don't think this movie would play well with today's crowd very much, the younger people maybe, because, or at least maybe people who are really sensitive about that stuff, because there's some pretty serious, I guess you could call it cultural appropriation going on.
You know, I went in remembering it, and
it made me laugh, but I find that kind of stuff
than
funny.
The last time I watched it, where I was like, oh, that wasn't too bad, and he's just being ridiculous more than anything. So, yeah.
But the whole, like when he comes out talking like an Indian, like a Native American from like a fucking old Western and shit, and he kind of calls him on it, like, I fine, really?
Yeah. It's like, what the fuck?
Like, would you knock it the fuck off? It's pretty funny, you know, and I don't know how it would play with, you know, some people who find that, who are sensitive about that stuff. But to me, it was pretty funny. You know, when he comes out in the full garb, I just started laughing because it was just so ridiculous at that point. And the whole like dream sequences where they're having visions of the Native Americans that were dead and shit. I was just like, what the fuck is this? We just took a complete left turn here, guys.
Right. And now Lee Ving is playing a different character.
Now Lee Ving is playing he's playing a Union soldier that kills a village of Indians or Native Americans. I keep saying Indians, I don't mean to. I don't mean to disrespect.
Well, you're using the vernacular that the movie uses.
Yeah, it's kind of the term from back then, but it's not the term for now. But anyway, point being, these Union soldiers in this vision that he has kill these villagers, and he's one of the native villagers. So he kind of sees himself die, and I just thought, this is completely. And then to top it off, we have this weird cowboy running through the movie, and then suddenly the cowboys and the Indians converge as friendly spirits to help them out or something. And it was just like, this movie has just lost its rocker.
That's why it feels like that thing about road movie I was just mentioning. Like, it allows you to, you know what, I got an idea. Let's throw this in. And then you just throw it in, and there you go. They don't really make them that much like that anymore.
This one was this is a wild one. I mean, it was it was super creative. Like I said, Daredelvis is just probably my favorite character I've seen in a long time, and especially when he's when he's in the bull ring and he grabs his guitar and starts doing one for the money and two for the show, and like the whole bleacher section is rocking back and forth. Dude, that got me rolling. I was really laughing at that. It was funny.
Yeah, I truly did think Elvis is everywhere.
Yeah. Thank you, Mojo Nixon.
Shot primarily in, I think anyways, in Jerome, Arizona, which is 3.5 hours north of Tucson.
Mm-hmm. That's
So,
pretty country.
Way out there, sometime in '87.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not too long after filming Near Dark. I have no idea how many other crew people came over from that movie, but I suspect it's probably more than just two.
Yeah, well, that's, a lot of these directors and production people, they all work together.
Mm-hmm.
Spielberg works with a lot of the same people over and over again. Scorsese does too. Villanueva's got the same DOP, I think, for most of his movies.
Right. And unlike Judgment Night, he got up.
Oh, he did get up. He did get up.
Yeah, for one last attempt at trying to...
chest full of lead. And what happened? The classic 80s wound. Shot in the left shoulder. Shot in the left arm.
yeah.
Right in the bicep.
Like, that wouldn't totally destroy you in real life. But
Right. Yeah, but instead you go, and you turn and you kill the bad guy. Because you got shot in the bicep.
And then the freeze frame ending, a la Running Scared. We're totally...
Yeah. That
That's it.
freeze frame ending was weird, dude.
We're done.
It was a weird ending.
Sometimes things just end.
No denouement at all. They're just like, there you go, picture's over.
Mm-hmm. And how long was that movie? About 95 minutes?
It was 1 hour and 34 minutes, yeah.
I watched it on... It's basically like watching it on Tubi, or I think I watched it through the Plex channel.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, it's all the same feed. Like, even if you watched it on the Shout Studios, I think it's all coming from the same thing. Like, the commercial breaks were just in the weirdest spots. So that probably made it more like 2 hours.
Uh-huh, okay.
My viewing experience of it anyways. What do you give this one on our...
Well,
scale?
I'm thinking about it, and again, I did love the Daredelvis, the giving him the snake poison. My favorite line in the movie is, "Daredelvis, is there anything you're not into?" And him saying, "Absolutely not," or something like. I can't remember what his line was, but it was cracked me the hell up.
Right.
And it's not one I watch a lot, but the other one thing I wanted to say is the soundtrack is weird. You start off with the Vandals, right? That's classic punk rock, man. You start off with the Vandals.
You brought this up, yeah.
And they're doing a classic kind of mockery punk rock song of country, of country people and rednecks, and
setting up the movie in a way.
Setting up the movie, and then from there they start mixing in a lot of like glam music, like hair metal music keeps showing up. Rebel of Rock and Roll is whatever that song is like, that's not a punk rock song. What the hell is this?
It's interesting you bring this up. I'm glad you did, because I didn't write it down. I wanted to talk about it. It does have that iconic moment. I think it's in the trailer where they try to stage dive and whoop, they land right on the face. Yeah. And then I thought about why does it suddenly switch to metal when we just had Jane's Addiction and like that.
Exactly.
I think it's because it's 1988, and remember the decline of Western civilization, part 2, the metal years.
Yes.
So she's already got that.
She's already gotten into her. I kind of thought the same thing. Like, she's already gotten into that metal interest. Yeah.
Because we're in 88, she's trying to represent both sides of it. But watching it now, I expect it to be nothing but the punk music.
Me too. Well, and if it's a movie about 3 punks, then it should probably be punk music, right?
Because the metal stuff, especially during the dream sequence and stuff, and I'm just like, okay, it works, but it really just, for me, you're sending me right back to 1988. I'm going on a time traveling trip, just like the character in the movie.
2.5 stars. 2.5 stars.
2.5 is what I give it as well, sir.
Can't go any further on that one.
That is what I give it as well. It is a very interesting slice of the late 80s.
Yeah, it's worth a look, but I wouldn't look too close and I wouldn't linger.
You know, all the way back on Repo Man, we mentioned if you were a punk kid in the 80s, there was 3 movies you probably watched. It was Repo Man,
Yep.
Dudes,
Yeah.
and Suburbia.
Suburbia. And
No, I
she
don't-
directed 2 of those.
You know, and I don't think we're getting to Suburbia anytime soon. That one's really harsh. You can watch that one for extra credit. Not to say harsh, just I don't feel like revisiting it again right now, even though it's a pretty interesting movie.
It's not an easy watch.
Yeah.
It's not an
Not
easy
an
watch.
easy watch. That's a good way to call
It's
it.
like watching, kind of like watching Kids or something like that.
Yeah, right. It's the kids of the 80s. That's a very good call there. So speaking of the 80s, and of course you can never tell in this program because things change on a whim, but if things continue the way they are, you are getting a break from the 1980s as far as movies go for probably at least 10 weeks. So we get to experiment some other decades.
I love
who
the
knows?
80s.
Who knows? We could go back to the 80s in between, and we will at some point, guaranteed. But the way I've got it laid out right now, very good possibility we might be floating around some of these other decades. I just wanted to bring that up just as because I've been hitting the 80s pretty hard here, but we're still in season 1 and laying down those foundational episodes.
Okay.
Like dudes. Dude.
Yeah,
So,
I think I have a foundational one for you myself this time. We're gonna do a little. We'll talk about it later. Let's talk about Sicario.
Yeah, Sicario. Surprisingly enough, this one got matched. I had never seen the movie before, and I realized it took me 9 years to watch this movie as of the time of this recording. But what is Sicario?
Sicario. Oh, let me give you the Sicario breakdown. An idealistic FBI agent is enlisted by a government task force to aid in the escalating war against drugs at the border area between the U.S. and Mexico. So this is written by Taylor Sheridan, who's super freaking hot right now. He's got shows and movies all over the place. He's the
Sons
guy,
of Anarchy guy, right?
Sons of Anarchy, Yellowstone, 1923, 1899. He's big. Villeneuve directed. I read somewhere, and don't quote me on this, but I read somewhere that his script, or he said that his script, the script he written, was heavily changed by Villeneuve's team when they came into the project.
Not surprising. Hey, it's a road movie.
It is a road movie. Well, there's road pieces in it, and I'll tell you, one of them, jumping right in, one of the most intense scenes in that film is them going across the border and back in that convoy.
Yeah, I can tell you right now, the part of the movie I really enjoy is that first hour up through that, because it's like you're not 100%, but in a large chunk, you're making it feel very realistic, gritty.
Yeah,
like you're really in the action. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it feels very much like you're sitting in the room and a part of what's going on quite a bit.
And that's probably why the movie was so successful overall. I'd say is probably because of that first hour alone is so powerful that's enough to get people. Because you go into it's like Near Dark, right? You go into it thinking this is going to be some regular B movie, horror movie. You go into this thinking, oh, it's like some, programmer burner action thing, and you go, oh, but they did something a little bit different that rises it up.
Yeah,
and
it gives you a little bit of different
Roger Deakins in as DP. But once again, it's like how I feel about Skyfall. The movie's almost too pretty, but it makes sense though. But it is one of the things I miss in the modern movies. We went and saw terrible film prints, so where you saw that film grain, and now everything is so slick. Like this movie reminded me of Master Commander in the way where its sound mix is so fucking sharp and clean that I'm just like, oh my God, it's almost like you're taking me out that it's so precise. But anyways, I have a lot of notes. I'm going to let you go back to your thing because I can just tangent.
Well, first off, I had completely spaced that Deakins was the DP on this, so I'm wrong that Villeneuve works with the same DP all the time. But I think for the Dune movies, he's definitely, and maybe for one before, he's been working with the same guy. I could be wrong.
Yeah, anyway. I think Deakins did Blade Runner with him as well, and I think both. Did he do both the Dunes with him?
I don't think so, but maybe it is. Maybe it is Deakins for all of them.
I mean, it's
anyway,
so hard to keep track.
We'll look it up as we talk. But so the point being, this is a perfect Villeneuve movie, and what I mean by that is, this guy's movies seem to do nothing and do everything all at once. He has a style unlike any other director I've ever watched.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
When you watch a Villeneuve movie, you know right away within the first 20 minutes or so of who you're watching, of what the director that you're watching. It's like watching a Coen Brothers movie, or watching a Guillermo del Toro movie, or watching a Tim Burton movie. You know, you're like, okay, I know who made this already. In where some directors do it, like Guillermo and Burton, they do it through like production design, artistic look of the film. You know, it's a lot of the same kind of aesthetic. Villeneuve just does it through like tone, pace, cut, and it's just really, really, really good filmmaking. He's just a fantastic director. Like, but he's, you know me, I'm Spielberg all the way. He's the greatest director that ever lived. But this guy's probably in the top 5, if not the top 3. He's just shockingly good. And I say that coloring it with, not just for this film, but I just saw Dune 2 and it blew me out of the water. So that's another thing.
And didn't you also see a Big Lebowski screening this last
I did.
week? So you've had more Deacons and more Fleet.
I have. Wow. I've been seeing a lot of movies lately, which is this is really one of the things I'm loving about this podcast, is that it's really putting a lot of more movies in front of me.
Right.
But anyway, so he's just got this style where it just seems calm and nothing's going on, and then suddenly everything's going on, and in tone and pace, and this sort of, I don't know how to. It's like being put into a silent room or something. You know, it just, the whole world around goes away, and all you're hearing is movie, and all you're watching is movie. And right from the start, man, he starts off with that police raid, and they find those corpses in the house, and she almost gets shot, and it's just like,
I'm amazed at what can be rated R. And I mean, I know it's been that way for a long time. The precedent's been set for near 20 years now, but you know, having lived through the 80s, growing up during that time, their MPAA was chopping the shit out of movies. I'm still not used to the level of gore that's allowed in an R-rated film now. It blows my mind. I don't have an issue with it. I'm just like, wow, we've made some progress here, because some of that stuff would have been like, no, you can only show like a half a second of that, or you're back to when we're talking about, you know, what is it, 89 or 90, and Henry, the Portrait of a Serial Killer, is getting an X rating and an NC-17 for tone. What can we cut out? The whole movie.
The whole movie, yeah.
You can't cut anything out. It's the tone.
And you know, Sicario has that tone to a certain extent. It's that it does have there's a certain level of sort of foreboding.
Silence of the Lambs, you know.
Yeah, and there's also a sense of just kind of like dread and I don't know, like it's never going to get fixed. You know, like you watch this movie with this kind of feeling of like, oh, this is all kind of pointless. You know, because it's just going to keep going on and on.
Things just transgress so much that the tone of Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer can be a mainstream movie from 10 years ago already. It's funny that you say about nothing getting better, because I liked this movie better when it was called No Country for Old Men. Now, I know that's a joke, but I feel like it's in that same genre of the hopelessness, and we're by the border, and shenanigans, to say the very least.
Border shenanigans. I like that she, you know,
and border shenanigans with Josh Hartnett.
Yeah, I like that she's a pawn. She's a pawn for the CIA, and you don't really find that out until later.
Josh Hartnett. Correct me here, please. It's fucking Brolin. It's
Josh Brolin.
Border shenanigans with Josh Brolin. There, now you can make the edit. Like, I never said anything stupid, and continue.
Oh, I'm not editing this.
I know.
Everybody's gonna hear this. So, what was I saying? I can't even remember.
We're talking about Newton, and then it's after the bombing, and
yeah. After the bombing, and well, basically, I in particular like the idea that she's a pawn for the CIA. You know, basically, the CIA can't operate on domestic soil without the FBI, or without using some sort of agency. But they don't tell her that; they just use her, and then she finds out later. But along the way, she's just seeing like, this is all just an operation to insert an assassin into a foreign country and kill a guy.
Mm-hmm.
The entire point of the movie.
Yeah.
All these people getting killed, all this stuff blowing up, all this lies and all this weird shit.
Mm-hmm.
She almost gets, she takes a dude home and he almost kills her.
I have so many notes. So many notes. I mean, well, let's start with the first part of what you mentioned there.
Mm-hmm.
This is a good, solid movie. It's not necessarily the genre of movie that I seek out or watch that often. That's why I compared it to. It's like it's a slightly above average, but so much stopping and re-explaining. They must stop the movie like 4 or 5 times and try to explain to her what's going on. And she says, "What's going on? How do you not know? I'm the viewer. I can barely keep track of what's going on, but yet I know what's going on. And you don't? How many times do we have to re-explain it to you? Are people coming into the movie every 20 minutes and need a recap here?" But see, it's interesting about Ted, that guy that attacked her at the bar. How do you know what bar she was at? Were they trailing from the... But then he knew the guy, and that was friends with the guy already, and...
Well, maybe that's the key, right? He knows the guy, so he's...
I'm glad her friend wasn't in on it. That would have been too much of a troll.
Oh, that would have been rough. But he knows her friend, and he knows this friend goes to this bar, so he maybe is just hanging out there hoping to run
that
into
one
her.
was that was almost like, for me, that's a deleted sequence. You almost could have like cut all that out, because I'm like, why is this movie stopping and trying to have any kind of romantic anything? It's just slowing down the speed of this film.
To me, that's why it worked, because it turns sinister very quickly, and he damn near kills her.
Yeah. I was already kind of almost semi-checked out at that point. Once she goes into the bank, that's where the movie starts to lose me. The first hour is very strong, but once I'm thinking, don't go in the bank. You get your picture taken, and they can see you. They're going to target you, and then all the tropes start kicking in. It's still a very beautiful shot movie, but overall, I thought it,
So you thought that she just wasn't a very smart FBI agent?
I was like, are we really going to go through this now? But sometimes you want to hit the beats.
It's a good point. It's a good point. She does seem sort of naive to walk into a bank and get her picture taken. I mean,
everything seems
especially if you're dealing with the cartels and you're taking their money and closing down their bank accounts, they're going to come after you.
You're going to ruin everything. Shit.
Yeah.
But I guess that's what it needed to give that extra little lump. But I almost feel like you could make, I don't know, maybe I'd watch the movie again, but you can take out her going into the bank all the way up to getting assaulted, and then you saved like 20 minutes of the movie, perhaps.
What did you think about the border crossing?
I like that part. That's the interesting, gritty part.
Good, wasn't it? Oh, when we get the guy from Burn Notice, Matt Nix, I think his name is, or something like that. He works with Bruce Campbell in that Burn Notice show, and I don't know if these guys are like, if these, like that dude and others are like, maybe they were in the military and they became actors, or they're just actors that are really good at playing like they were in the military.
Oh yeah, like they're just hiring real people.
Yeah, like it's like, you guys are pretty fucking convincing, but who knows?
Yeah, I think if you're like a fan of action movies, you're probably really going to appreciate what this does.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I feel like it feels very genuine and realistic. They don't.
Because it's not I'm not saying it's a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination. I just thought it was going to be something really special going in, based off the pedigree, and people have been raving about it for so long. Where I was just like, okay, and then she's doing goofy shit like going in the bank.
Geoffrey Donovan is that guy's name. Matt Nix. Where the hell did I get that from? Anyways.
I felt like it was kind of like a movie of all non-player characters in a way. Like they were just kind of bouncing through their thing. But my ultimate summary of it is? It's like watching a movie about the hitman who shot Tony Montana. Right? If you ever wanted to know that guy's story, right? Because in a way, right, the Colombian drug lords, and he's just going around fucking shooting everybody, which kind of, that's why I was like, okay, well, give me part 2, because what the fuck are they going to do now? Who's he going after this time? What kind of, I have a feeling they're going to jettison some of the stuff that people liked, but I haven't seen part 2 yet. So I am curious about that one. I will totally watch that, because it's like, how do you turn this, which should be like the singular work, you know? But you know,
hey, I mean, we watched the same movie, but we had very different takes on it. I do think it's like, I think it, like No Country, it does what it does. No Country, we've seen that movie before. You know, I mean, not in that exact way, but we've seen the whole find the money, run from the bad guys thing done. You know,
I was about to say, I criticize because it's a very, very well done marijuanos. You know?
Yeah, we've seen, you know, we've seen, you know, the whole military movie trying to take on the cartels and all that stuff, and even the ones with twists and turns, you know. So, and to me, both these movies do it in a very particular. Both those movies do it in a very particular way that kind of singles them out and makes them better. And I think, you know, part of that may be Deakins. Honestly, the guy's a fucking master of what he does. He's just, I mean, both these movies. This one's got that weird, washed out look to it. You know, that kind of weird yellowish or bluish kind of washed out look to it too, which was an interesting choice. But I think it really works for the film.
And one of the things that, you know, because the notes I took were all the little nitpicks that I had.
Pick away, my brother.
It turns into the Blair Witch Project towards the end with all that night vision shit.
Yeah, it turns into Zero Dark 30 to me.
Yeah, and I'm just like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
Please, just show me an image. That's me.
I do like where she comes out of the tunnel pointing the gun at him and
oh, see, then when it comes back where it's lit again, and I can see.
Yeah, and he's been nice to her, and they've kind of formed a relationship. And he says, "Put the gun down," and she doesn't. So he just shoots her. You know, point blank, bang.
Right.
You know, and then just gets in the car and drives off. Tells her not to
Those
ever
are the
point a
parts
gun
that
at
are
him.
interesting. The parts that I enjoy.
Yeah.
The parts where it's like, I'm not really going to feel sympathy for this guy's kid because, oh no, dad's died, because it has about as much weight as that Median trailer in Entourage where he's kicking the soccer ball. That guy's subplot to me, because I'm a little too cynical on this shit. And a lot of it is because deep bass. Look, I'll forgive them. This was about 10 years ago. We weren't oversaturated with this. They do it in trailers a lot, but movies that try to put you off kilter with the deep, ominous, obnoxious bass.
You're talking about that weird thrumming that happens?
Yeah, okay. You really lose me when you throw that in. It's too much. It's right up there with the flashing trailers that... And then somebody says a line, somebody jumps out, cut away, boom sound, and the name of the movie. I've seen that trailer so many times. I'm amazed they're still doing it. But I give this one a little bit of the benefit of the doubt because it was about 10 years ago. We haven't been as saturated with it. But then we get to the end credits music and they kick it in again, and I immediately knocked another half star off. Yeah, you gotta stop with the super clear, obnoxious low bass. Okay, I'm already just unnerved enough because you're crossing the border.
See, I watched it with headphones, so I didn't really have a problem with it. It worked for me. Again, that's interesting.
But it's not a bad movie. It's just all the good things I have to say about it are, you know, it takes some of the tropes and it goes a little above on it, but kind of like the road movie aspect we were talking about, it almost feels like they were making this up as they went along too a little bit, because now he's suddenly a hitman. I mean, it all makes sense when it clicks back in. And it's the opposite of No Country, right? She's holding the gun on him instead of he goes in but he actually shoots the woman in that movie, if I remember correctly. Or they make it seem like it because he's got that tear running down his cheek.
Yeah, they don't show her death, but yeah, you're right. I think we're definitely sure she does.
Interesting to watch both of those in a row if you had the time.
Yeah.
You'd probably feel fucking drained, like, oh my god, the world's fucked up.
This is so depressing.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I had fun with it. I'm glad I watched it. It's definitely got me interested enough to be like, okay, what how are you making a part 2?
Well, you had mentioned that you hadn't seen it, and I thought, well, that's that's for one of Villanueva's early ones. It's a pretty good one.
Yeah. Different than his other movies.
Yeah.
Even shot kind of different. There's aspects where you can tell, like you were saying, it's him right away. But then there's other parts where it's like, this is very different than Blade Runner 2049, or I only saw the first Dune so far, and it's like, oh yeah, he's got more dialogue in this one.
It has a little Arrival in it. If you've seen Arrival,
I haven't seen that one. He also did Passengers, right?
Yeah.
I haven't seen any of those.
It has a little Arrival in it, which is which is what you're talking about, a little dialogue heavy movie.
And see, this is what happens. I listened to over 100 episodes of the Team Deacons podcast that are hyping this movie up so much that when I finally did see it, I'm like, oh, that's the shot you've been raving about. Maybe if I had gone into it before, I would have been like, oh, that was cool that they held that long on that long shot where they're arguing. And now I'm just like, that feels like an outtake to me that they left in the movie.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's interesting because I don't think you heard anything about. I don't think you were listening to that podcast when you saw 1917. And then
no, I haven't watched 1917 yet.
You haven't seen 1917?
No, I still haven't seen that one yet. I tried to start it and I realized, oh shit, I don't have like the full time right now. I don't want to start and stop this because I can tell it's going to be the one full take.
Yeah, you got to watch it all the way through. You can't stop.
Movie,
you can't go use the bathroom.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's interesting.
Lock yourself.
I'll have to make a note on that. We'll probably pull that one up at some point.
Yeah, well, who knows? Maybe I'll throw it in.
Okay, so I also really like the end where it's all over and then he shows up and makes her basically sign away her rights about everything. Yeah. Where he's just like, "You're gonna sign this, or I'm gonna have to kill you." It's a very ominous ending to the film.
She's not in part 2.
No, not at all.
It's like, oh.
But Brolin and Benicio went back for seconds on that, so they're in the second one.
Because the mission continues.
I can definitely.
You would text at me. It's the Wolves' country now, so
I can definitely see what you're saying. I mean, the middle part is a little problematic. I think for me, the beginning and then the end are the best parts of it.
Yeah,
When we get to the 0 Dark 30 thing, it's a little weird, and then for me, it quickly pulls out when he.
These are just stylistic choices.
Yeah,
he wouldn't be who he is if he didn't do specific things a certain way.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Yeah, but I can see your point. I can see your point on that. But yeah, I quite enjoy that film. It's not one I watch super often.
Yeah, I would think that would be a little.
But it's a good film.
Was he peeing on that guy, or was he just? I mean, during that interrogation scene, he comes in with the big bottle of water, and they never really say what's happening.
He's just waterboarding him.
Mm.
Put a towel over his face and then pouring water over the towel, and it restricts airflow.
So why was he putting his crotch up in his face then?
Intimidation.
Oh, I thought he was just, where is this going into Cheech and Chong's still smoking? Now start praying, cop, before he tells you. Now you know what I want you to do, and it ain't praying.
It ain't praying, exactly.
I'm like, have we slipped into this territory?
It's just straight up, I've got a big dick, I dare you to do something about it type
I thought it was something like the watermelon in the like vice grip or whatever it is, and Buckaroo Banzai. There's no explanation for why it's
no. I think you're reading too much into it.
Probably. It looked shocking.
Yeah, that was.
You wouldn't see scenes like that in a movie in the '80s unless it was some Charles Bronson thing.
Yeah, they did a lot of. They did a lot of interesting stuff in that movie.
It's brutal. It is brutal. It doesn't pull any punches. It's very gritty.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think that's also why a lot of people like it. If you're into those types of movies, you want something that's gritty and kind of realistic. For me, it's like that's why the John Wick series
is don't mind the tropes either.
The first John Wick was kind of realistic, and then it went into this by the fourth one, he's holding up his suit as a cape and blocking bullets with it. And you're just like, this has gone off the rails.
But they don't do that in this movie. This movie's hyper realistic.
Yeah. And again, John Wick is not even close to this as far as reality goes. But people people who are into these types of movies. I am too. They like them when they're kind of gritty and realistic like this. I think Black Hawk Down is a great example of that, where Black Hawk Down is very gritty and realistic and intense.
It reminds me of when I went through all the James Bond movies, and some of those are not as good as some of the others, obviously, but you don't mind because it's hitting the same tropes and you want that from those movies. And I feel like this is like, well, you want some of those things to play out that way as an action fan.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. But yet, like we talked about, sometimes the best ones are the ones that don't do that, right?
True. And they had enough of that does. I can see why it sets it apart. Yeah. But I wasn't like, wow, this is one of my top 10 movies of all time. It did, don't believe the hype, right? I spent 9 years getting around to watching it, and I had it a little overblown for me. If I just gone into it blind, I probably would have been like, oh, pleasant surprise.
Yeah, I think
it'll probably grow on me.
That's happened to me several times where I've gone in watching a movie thinking, okay, everybody says this is great, this is going to be great, and I go, I mean, I guess. Maybe I just don't get it. And then sometimes I watch it again later and I catch it.
Right.
Like,
this is what's going on. I
was in a weird frame of mind, or I had a lot going on that day, or whatever the hell, and I just wasn't in the. Sometimes you just got to be in the right frame of mind to watch a movie.
Yeah.
And maybe you'll watch it again and you'll be like, no, I hate this thing even fucking more. This is awful.
I don't hate it. Oh, no. It's just, I thought it was mediocre in the truest sense of the word, as you go in expecting it to be greatness and you got averageness.
Interesting.
Maybe a little above average. It's not like... Because I have to say that first hour was really fucking good. Mm-hmm. And then, like a lot of movies, sometimes they just start to lose me by the second or third act. It's kind of a common thing,
Yeah, I noticed with Dudes, jumping back to that real quick, at about an hour and 10 minutes in, I was like, damn, really? There's 25 minutes of this movie?
What's left here?
Geez,
and they're even doing the trope of he fucking got up.
Yeah, well, and what's next? Oh, 10 minutes of like a dream sequence in old Tucson. Like this wild-ass dream sequence. Anyways, yeah. So I would give this movie... I would probably give this movie 3.5 to 4 stars.
All right.
Probably 3.5. No, probably 4. I'll go 4.
Yeah, you're going 4?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's pretty good. I think it's got its flaws, but I think it's a damn good movie. I really like it. I don't watch it super a lot, but I'm a fan of Villeneuve's movies, and I think this is a good example.
Yeah, I give it 2.
Wow.
It just doesn't really do anything for me, and especially when she does things like go in the bank. It's like, man, what are you doing?
Hit us in the comments
for the story. I understand, but like I said, if I was a big action fan, I'd probably say 4.5 maybe, because I could see where it's elevated. But oh god, I don't use that word elevated. It's better than what a lot of the genre puts in.
Sure,
but it's better than Steven Seagal action movie. Not to put those down, but I'm saying
well now wait a second, it's no Under Siege. I mean, let's not go crazy.
But this one's not trying to be funny. This movie is not trying to be Lethal Weapon. This movie's trying to be a little grittier or more of a drama action. So
yeah,
it has a sense of humor here and there, but by and large,
but it's mainly gallows humor.
I would totally recommend this movie. I'm not against this movie or dislike it. It's just kind of there, I can't hate on it, but I just found my little things where I'm like, here we go again with the low rumbling bass. Please stop your unnerving me movie. That's the point. I know. You're just jealous because it's a really well-made marijuanos.
Not even close.
Well, like you said, stealing the money and running across the border at its very core.
Well, that's
genre.
That's No Country for Old Men. That's not.
That's true. See,
I mean,
it'll be fun when we do that one someday. I'm sure No Country for Old Men will pop up at some point.
Oh, I'm sure it will too. Yeah. So, William. So, speaking of which, what's popping up next week?
Oh, what is popping up next week? Let me see here. Next week is episode 25 of the show, where it's a making Pondo. I think I announced one of those. But when we come back here for the next
26th.
episode 26. What do I have picked for that one? Okay, like I said, we're taking a little break from the 80s. At least I think this movie's from the aughts. Documentary alert. To insert the little documentary theme song here, right?
Oh,
We got one of those.
Yeah, I can do. I'll do something in post.
You're watching the Werner Herzog documentary, My Best Fiend.
Oh fuck! I knew it.
Which is just a documentary about how he had to work with Klaus Kinski, and as a filmmaker, it's jaw-dropping.
Yeah, this is the one where they try to kill each other, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Okay. Okay.
I
I'm
haven't
gonna go.
even seen the movies they talk about, but the
That's interesting.
documentary's good.
So you're going with a bit of an auteur, and I'm going to go with one myself. I like a lot of this guy's movies. I think he's a pretty talented dude. I'm going to give you Favreau Swingers.
Oh boy, we're introducing swingers.
Uh-huh.
Okay, well, there's a lot to talk about out there. It's interesting because these will both go hand in hand pretty well about the craft of making movies.
Yeah, and I think this is a good one to kind of start and bring him into the discussion. We haven't brought Kevin Smith into discussion yet, but eventually we will. But he's very much like that, starting off making small little indie movies and doing really well. And I'm a big fan. I respect him a lot.
Yeah, I think you might have beat me to swingers there. I had it on my list, but it was still somewhere in the distance of. Yeah, I knew that would be a good one.
So why this one? What's the connection?
We're kind of off the beaten path.
You're just plucking this one out.
Yeah, after Dudes, we kind of like I'm saying, okay, there's a little break from the 80s. I guess connect maybe back to like Ed Wood, more movies about making movies about the crafts, about the craft.
Cool.
But yeah, I discovered this one just kind of by accident a few months ago and was just like, what is the phrase? You couldn't do that now.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to be doing that then. So.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, I've heard of this one, but I haven't seen it. I definitely have heard the stories about it, but I haven't actually put my own eyes on it. So this should be interesting.
Yeah, there's a good English dub that I think Werner did the English of too. So that's what I watched rather than trying to read while the German was playing the whole time. Although that's an interesting experience too. Sure.
All right, we'll check it out.
Yeah, our first documentary.
That's an interesting choice. That'll be interesting. Documentary.
Yeah, it's no Dudes, but what is?
Good. Nothing.
2.5 Men, perhaps.
All right. Well, until next time, I'm going to go off and figure out how to put Dare Elvis into a script because I think that's probably the most brilliant thing I've seen in quite a while.
Yes, and I'm going to figure out something about more Josh Brolin movies.
All right. Till next week, man. Talk to you soon.
Later. Support the show on Buzzsprout for only $3 a month. Give us a 5-star review on Spotify or the platform of your choice. And be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube page.